We got the inflation race about to get underway here. In lane 1 we have the cheapy eBay $30 battery powered compressor that will be set to 100 psi. Let's see what it can do. Lane 2 we have the Tomcat mini compressor. Gauge goes to 100, 120 actually. And in lane 3 we have the Australian designed MotoPressor. Okay, we're off and running. Slight head start was given to the battery powered unit. I figured it might need a head start, followed by the Tomcat, and handicapped in third place, but the third away at the start was the MotoPressor. I think it will catch up though. 14 minutes, I might have to call it quits. Not entirely sure how I get near it to turn it off. Disconnect that battery. The winner of the great inflation race is the Bridgestone 9090 21 tube. G'day folks, we're back in the shed. It is review time. Today we're looking at air compressors. We have my trusty Tomcat compressor, little mini wired one that I've used for many years. Then I have the cheapest possible rechargeable unit that I could find on eBay, you know, wireless, battery powered. And finally I have probably the most popular wired air compressor in Australia. That's the MotoPressor from Rocky Creek Designs. So let's take a quick look at what you get when you buy these units, and then we'll go and do some tests. Tomcat mini air compressor, you can still buy these. They're pretty cheap. They're like 30 bucks or maybe a little bit more, 35 or something. They're not very dear. This is the one that I bought probably 10 years ago and it's still going fine. It has a little tiny air hose attached with it. It has a gauge built in, a light on the top which has stopped working, and you know, 1.5 meters or so of cable that you use the SAE plug to connect to your bike. The digital air compressor, the JM8804, again this is about $30 on eBay. This is cheap as chips. I've already unboxed it, but this is the unit here. It is basically a little brick, has the small air hose that you just can unscrew, light on the top, charge port underneath. It comes with a USB cable to charge, and it comes with some little valve adapters for inflating balls and air mattresses and things. The MotoPressor pocket pump, this is about $70. This comes in a neoprene pouch. It has the compressor and fairly long inflator hose and a couple of meters of cable to wire it to your bike. When you buy it, you also get a pair of alligator clips or the ring terminals with the SAE connector on either end. So you can use either of these to connect to your battery, or probably like most people, they already have a battery charge point on their bike with one of these SAE connectors. You can run it straight off that if the fuse is big enough in the bike. So they do recommend you need a 15 amp fuse in one of these if you're going to run it straight off that connector on your bike. Just got a battery here just so I can show you and test them. The little Tomcat, there's not much to the operation of it. You basically plug it in, you connect this to your valve. That's it. Battery powered unit, we turn him on. Now you can use this straight off like this. You use the plus and minus keys to set the PSI that you want. So it will default to 35 when you turn it on. You can set it to, you know, whatever you want. Screw it in, you turn it on, and away you go. And once it reaches the number that you set, it will cut itself off. This also does have some different modes. It has like ball mode, bike, push bike, cars, whatever. All that does though is sort of change the default range, I suppose. So I found with the battery powered one, like it times out after 30 seconds or so, it resets everything back to default. So you can change, change all your settings. You set it to motorcycle mode, set your limit on where you want it to cut off, and then by the time you muck around and you go and connect it up to your bike and screw it all in and get ready to go, you'll find that after 30 seconds it's powered itself off because it's timed out, and it resets everything back to default. So all I found was you just turn it on. It's in some PSI mode already. The default will be 35. Just use that. Just start with that mode. Set it to whatever. Hit the go button and you're away. The MotoPressor, it comes with quite a long inflator hose. You kind of need to sit it on this pouch because it vibrates a lot. So you sit it on that on the ground, and then this can go to the valve, whether the valve's at the top or at the bottom. It's easy. This is good. The long hose is good. It comes with a fairly decent length, probably 2 meters of cable. It has a switch underneath there, which you can see, and turn him on. It's pretty loud. There's no housing around it, and it's just a bigger motor and it's a bigger pump. This is an Australian design. Also has a 5-year warranty, which is pretty awesome for a product, for any product these days. 5-year warranty, so they obviously stand by their products. So that's really good. We're going to start with a real world test of a flat tyre on the 500. So the rear tyre, completely flat. I'm just going to measure how long it takes to inflate it. I will start the bike because that's how the corded compressors best run, with the bike running, and I certainly would not recommend ever running a compressor off this bike, off the 500, with the engine off, because the batteries are so small you will run it down pretty quick. I'm going to start with the Tomcat, that's my control, and just see how long it takes. Stopped it at about 25, set about 25, and I've checked it with another gauge, 25 psi, so pretty accurate. So with no gauge on the MotoPressor, it's a bit hard to tell, especially on these stiff tyres. You can't really even see the thing moving. So I've turned it off after 2 minutes. I've taken a pressure reading to see where we're up to. 24 psi in 2 minutes. Pretty good, pretty impressive. Go. That's right. 3 minutes, bang on. Let's just check that. 23. Says it stopped at 25. It was actually 23. So I also tested it on my Triumph Tiger. I ran the battery powered one and the MotoPressor to inflate the Triumph Tiger tyre to 40 psi. So it's a bigger tyre and it is to a higher pressure. I wanted to see how long the battery lasted on this. That took 6 minutes and 16 seconds to fill that tyre to 40 psi. The second time it took just under 7 minutes to inflate it to 40 psi. The third time that I tried, it got to 25 psi in about 4 minutes, and then the battery went flat. That leads me to an important point about this particular unit. The recharge time for this is unbelievably slow. After 8 hours of charging, it had put 2000 milliamps back into the battery. This is a 4000 milliamp battery. This charges at 1/4 of an amp per hour, which is unbelievably slow. Most things, as a general rule, will charge at 1 amp, but this is 1/4, so the recharge time is really, really slow. Now, I just left it overnight. I gave up trying to time it. It ended up putting in about 3100 milliamps, so 3.1 amps back into the battery. So it obviously wasn't flat when it ran out, but it had reduced enough that it was, it couldn't use it anymore. Now the Triumph Tiger test with the MotoPressor, that took 5 minutes to get to 40 psi. And obviously the good thing about these is you can just run them. Like, you can inflate multiple tyres, as many as you want, for as long as you want, no problem. You could probably fill up car tyres, four-wheel drives if you had the time. This thing will do it. Okay, so what does it all mean? From a weight point of view, we've got 300 grams for this, as it is there. The little cheapy battery-powered one weighs 430 grams, and the MotoPressor in the neoprene bag weighs 660. Twice the weight of the smaller unit, and half again as much as the battery one, but it's also twice as fast as the smaller unit. So for me personally, I'm going to stick with the Tomcat in the 500. I think this is a good size. It packs down fairly small. I have a little, it doesn't come with a case, but I have a little multimeter case or something that I had, and it's lightweight. It's 300 grams. This is a similar size. It doesn't weigh that much more, but the issue that I have with these battery powered ones is it's another thing that you need to kind of prepare and think about and remember to recharge. Now, I don't know how long the battery lasts. It probably lasts for ages, but you wouldn't want to be out somewhere on the trail and find out your battery's flat because you hadn't used it for the last year and you hadn't even looked at it or thought to remember it. Whereas the Tomcat, it stays in my tool bag. Never even need to think about it because it'll just work because it's running off the bike. It's a similar story with the MotoPressor. It can sit under your seat of your bike or in your luggage literally forever. Never going to be an issue. You just plug it in when you need to use it. It's going to work. But it weighs a lot. Maybe if I was the tailman on a ride and I had a bunch of riders in a group, the tailman on a dirt bike ride typically carries all the spares and can fix flats and all the rest of it. I'd probably take something like this, a decent size unit that can get the tyres filled quickly, get people back on the road, and it's also not going to run out like a battery powered one might. Battery powered units are fantastic for, like, in the shed here. If you don't have a compressor at home, which I don't in this shed, this is awesome to just leave kicking around on the bench. You can inflate all your push bikes and you check your pressures before you go on a ride. Built-in gauge, automatic cut-off, different connectors, fantastic for that. And it's living in your shed, so recharging is not an issue. But would I take it on the bike? Yeah, don't know, probably not. So that's my comparison. I'm probably going to stick with the Tomcat because it suits me. I will certainly use the battery powered one in the shed, and on the road bike, on the Tiger, I'd be taking the MotoPressor. I hope this has been of use for you. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. See you in the next one. Decidedly big bulge appearing in lane 2 in the Tomcat. Two down, one to go. I think the winner is the MotoPressor, but maybe it's more a case of the Bridgestone tube lasting the distance.